Welcome, welcome, welcome. The Pixelated Sausage Show. Hi. Hi, how is everyone doing? Hopefully well. I am, of course, your host, Mark Kushnez. And I guess I'm lucky in this case, this instance, having waited and dragged my feet in the ground in terms of recording this here episode. It is 9:24 in the morning on this here Friday, Central Time, Chicago time. And thanks to this delay in recording, which wasn't on purpose, it's just the way the cookie crumbles every now and again. But because of that, I have breaking news. And it is breaking news because it may be breaking your heart as you hear it. Though at the time of, not this recording, but the time you're listening to this, you surely already know that Grand Theft Auto 6 has officially been dated and delayed. So now we have a concrete date for Grand Theft Auto 6, and that is no longer a date in 2025, as was constantly confirmed. Not confirmed is maybe too strong a word, but 2K like to reiterate that yes, it's a 2025 game. It's coming out this year. It's coming out this year. Yeah. It's coming out this year. And that may have been for shareholders and stuff of that nature. Of course, I believe their stock dropped 8 to 10% after the news, as anyone would have expected, given the biggest game of the year is no longer the biggest game of the year. It is the biggest game of next year, which is done. My hair is just. I hate this. Why can't it just grow like a foot in a month or something, so I can see how bad I look, or just let me know. Am I just wasting my time? I'm so curious. But the stock dropped, as one would expect, given the biggest game of the decade of the year that it comes out, which is next year now, has moved out of this fiscal year to May 26, 2026. That is the official release date. Of course, that could change. That could get moved around, but that feels right-ish. And that means that there is now a lot of open space, and it also helps people knowing that it's a year out, a little over a year, about 13 months, minus a few days. With that date now out there, people can schedule things around it. So no longer are people wondering, well, is Grand Theft Auto 6 going to be October this year, November, so on and so forth. Now that people know, there's no more question as to, well, should we delay our game? Should we wait to see what Grand Theft Auto's doing? No more of that. So that's at least nice. Though again, it could be delayed again for all we know. But you know what that means? That means the fall is open. And you know what it's open for? A new mainline 3D Mario platformer, because that is one of my draft picks in my Fantasy Critic League. It is the one game I need to cement a potential victory. Without it, I'm screwed. Even with it, I don't know, because my first pick ended up being Civilization. Is it 7? The new Civilization, and that underperformed. What a son of a bitch that game was. And I have no idea yet if Mafia, picking that as my counter pick, was a good choice or not. But yeah, Grand Theft Auto 6, we have a date, and it's been delayed, and that happened. On top of that, it's been a week of bad news, you could say, in all aspects of the industry. We have the delay of Grand Theft Auto 6. We have a few media outlets getting upended. Polygon was purchased by some company, and they laid off all or the majority of the staff. And then Giant Bomb, it has been confirmed that they're going to be going under some content structural changes that may lead to the site becoming a guides focused site, a guides only site for all we know. And with that news, Jeff Grubb left the site, and Mike Minotti left as a contributor. And then is it managing editor? I don't know what his title is, but Dan, what is his name? I'm thinking of a Dan I actually know in real life who worked with my father. It's not Dad Renteria, the postman from Chicago, Illinois. Dan Riker. He said that he will no longer be on the Giant Bombcast. And it makes me wonder what is the Giant Bombcast going to be? What is Giant Bomb going to be? But Polygon is basically dead. Giant Bomb is basically dead as we've ever known it. It's had its various iterations and new crop of people working there, but this looks like the death nail for Giant Bomb as well, which then leaves us with so few. It just leaves us with more and more, or less and less, media outlets for gaming content, and also increases the pool of people looking to start their own thing, start their own Patreon, and all of that jazz, which makes it difficult for small folk like me. But that's neither here nor there. In addition to that, though, on the good news train, we have Xbox announcing the price raising of everything. It's minimal on accessories, peripherals. I think controllers are getting the regular standard controllers are getting a $5 bump. The Elite controllers getting a $20 bump. I don't know about headsets, probably in that $10 to $20 range in terms of a bump. And then the consoles seem to have increased in price around 20 to 25%. The Series S went from $300 to $380. The digital edition Series X went from $450 to $550. The standard Series X with the disc drive, $500 to $600. And then the 2 terabyte Xbox Series X Galaxy Edition, whatever it was, that was $600, has gone up all the way to $730, making it more than the PlayStation 5 Pro. So for $30 more than the Pro, and of course the Pro doesn't come with a disc drive, so factor that in, I guess. And if you buy that peripheral, that is what? And this is all in the States, that these prices. They've changed everywhere, I think, regionally, but these are specifically the US prices. The disc drive is $60 or something. So $760 if you want a completely comparable PlayStation 5 Pro to this Series X. But who cares? All right, throw that out the window, because nobody cares about discs anymore for the most part. You can spend more than a PS5 Pro to get a console that performs worse. And I'm the Xbox person. I love Xbox. It is my main platform. It is where I buy my games. It's where I play the majority of my games. I am the Xbox person, and I look at this and I think, this is insane. And of course, we all know that this is at least partially due to tariffs. Entirely, who's to say? Everyone's been raising prices. This is an unprecedented generation in terms of no price drops, and even to that point, price raises. We've seen multiple across PlayStation and now Xbox, and Nintendo with the Switch, they just never drop the price. And it's wild. I've watched a few people talk about this, and it probably is the fact that the industry is not seeing growth. And whether it will continue this way, if it's peaked now, because certain people are just going to play on their phones or not play games or what the industry looks like, if things are going to be moving to a lot of people primarily consuming via not prescription, subscription models like Game Pass or PlayStation Plus Premium Essentials, whatever it's called, and stuff of that nature. The not Xfinity, the Nvidia, whatever their thing is, GeForce Now, something along those lines. Who's to say? The industry is definitely, I've said this before, but I don't think we're in the midst of a crash. I think we are, and have been since the pandemic, probably very much so, in an identity crisis where the industry needs to figure out what exactly it's going to look on, what the future entails, how to navigate the current space and all of that, and figure out how to make things work. Do game budgets make sense where they're at? Or does that only make sense for a very small selection of games like a Grand Theft Auto that can justify such insane expenditure? We will see. It's a constantly evolving space, but it's just been a wild, rough, who knows, confusing couple of years, and it doesn't seem like there's really any light at the end of any kind of hypothetical tunnel. It just seems like we're still trying to figure things out. I was listening to one podcast where they were talking about maybe the reason for these prices, because my initial joke was, oh, Xbox just really doesn't want anyone to buy Xboxes now. People were already not buying Xboxes, and now with this, who the fuck is gonna buy an Xbox? Your TV's an Xbox, your computer's an Xbox, your phone's an Xbox. So why the fuck are you gonna spend $730 on a real Xbox when everything else you already own is an Xbox? Why? Why would you do that? And one of the people I was listening to, I think it was on Game Mess, because I was curious what Jeff Grubb had to say post him leaving Giant Bomb and all that. But this almost seems like a reason, but at the same time, I don't think, and I believe they even said this, I don't think people are dumb enough to be fooled by this at this point. Even with the Pro, it had its early adopters, but I don't think the Pro is going to be some hot selling item and sell as much as the PS4 Pro at the price it is. But maybe by showing people the Series X at these ridiculous prices, because I also want to, it has to be a tariff thing, right? Because the stuff they use to make these things, the components, have they not dropped in price? I don't know anything about hardware. I'm not a hardware person, so I can't really speak to it in any intelligent way. But maybe all of this is to get people prepared for what the cost of the next generation of consoles is going to be, and have it so that it's not double what the current consoles cost. Because I was talking with some of the people who are watching me stream last night, and I wouldn't be surprised if the next Xbox, especially with it, the next Xbox could cost $800 for the premium console and $600 for the handheld version. I think a more likely thing, and what they would probably want to shoot for, is $700 for the premium, $500 for the handheld. When I was thinking earlier, I was like, man, it'd be really nice if they could get it in at 4 and 6, and then maybe have a standalone 200 Series S type of streaming box, or just say you have your handheld version, official Xbox, you have your premium, high quality, all the rays and all the traces, super expensive Xbox, and then for people who don't want either, you can go on your TV, you can use your phone, you can use whatever, everything's an Xbox, play it on your microwave. But that I don't know if it's going to work. And I joked about this because it's something that would never happen. But what I think would be an amazing type of collaboration, integration, partnership is if Microsoft killed the Microsoft Store on PC and partnered with Steam, where every game you purchase on the Xbox Store or the Steam Store, or maybe it just works one way, where if you purchase a game on the Xbox Store, you get both an Xbox copy and a Steam copy, so that you can play the games on your PC or your Xbox, and Steam is integrated into the Xbox, and that's a thing. But then you still have the thing where no one, unless they care about Xbox achievements, will purchase anything on the Xbox Store, even with that dual ownership, because you'll still be able to get games cheaper if you buy directly on Steam and just get the Steam version that you can then play on your Xbox. I don't know, but I just don't know what the viability of Xbox hardware is, saying that as someone who genuinely wants Xbox hardware to continue because I'm an Xbox person. And to that point, if there is an $800 Xbox and a $600 handheld that come out the same day, I will buy both, because I'm that much of a psychopath. And Xbox is my platform. My library is enormous. If you saw my library and what was in it, you'd be like, "You're nuts. You're nuts." And I am nuts. But yeah, crazy times right now. What's not crazy, however, is Peglin. Peglin, I think, is a game that came out on PC a while ago, and it's just made its way to consoles. I got a code for the Xbox version, been playing that, and it's basically Peggle mixed with a rogue-like, more so in the deck building side of things, like a Slay the Spire, where you are playing Peggle. And if you don't know what Peggle is, it's where you're shooting a little ball and hitting these various pegs. They fall into one of a handful of gaps, holes in the ground, and you score points. And in this case, these points are used to attack enemies in various battles. And you have an assortment of different types of balls to shoot at the pegs, from just your standard one that'll give you 2 points per peg you hit for damage, or for the special ones, you have a dagger that'll give you very little if you hit just a regular peg, but super extra damage if you hit one of these special pegs. You have fire pegs, things that can poison enemies, ones that will do a multi-shot, so on and so forth. There's just a lot there. And that's the basic gist of it. I played a few runs and beat a few bosses, and it's fun. What I think the game is missing, because I genuinely like the gameplay. It has a very solid gameplay loop, that deck building type of roguelike structure of going down various paths. And one of the cool things about the paths you choose is that instead of selecting them yourselves, I mean, you can do your best to pick where you're going direction wise. The way you pick them is through the gameplay. So at the end of a fight, or if you went to a store or went to a treasure, so on and so forth, when you're done with that particular area and want to move on to the next, you will shoot the ball into one of these various holes that will, depending on where you land, send you to one of the different directions. And when you do that, there'll be new pegs that are there that you have to avoid, and they can send your ball going in the direction you didn't want to go. And you might end up going to a hard battle when you really wanted to go to a store where you could buy some new balls, or somewhere you could heal, or so on. So I like that there's that variable aspect to how you go along the path. But what the game is missing is personality. The visuals are very low quality pixel graphics, very dull, very bland, not a lot of artistic creativity in terms of the enemy designs or any of that stuff going on. And it just looks very, very bland. And then on top of that, there's no real excitement or kind of dopamine hit when you finish a battle. Specifically when you're in the battles, you don't have the thing you had in Peggle where it starts playing, I don't, was it Ode to Joy or something, but I can't remember exactly what song, but you don't have anything like that. There's no, ooh, I just beat this, which is something I mentioned when I played that Luck Be a Landlord game, the game that inspired Balatro. There wasn't, you're playing slots and you didn't feel like, oh my God, I just hit a great jackpot. You didn't get any of that. And you don't have that here. So while playing the game feels good, the Peggle gameplay is solid, and there are so many various balls and different attributes and relics that you can mix and match to find something that really works for you, a great combination. And you can also skip 2 balls, I think, every round, every battle, in case one's not currently advantageous to what's showing up on the board. It just lacks that person. Like, it feels good and all that. It just, there's not a sense of ooh or ah. I don't know exactly how to put it in words right now, except that it's just not that engaging because of that. It's something that I'm kind of like, I'm playing on autopilot in a sense. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I just wish there was a bit more there on the personality side of things. Because I look at the game and I think, oh, this is like a solid 7 out of 10. But if it was a bit more polished and had that personality, I think it could fall into the 8, 9 space. Because I did multiple runs, fought multiple bosses, battled multiple enemies and enemy types. I can't fucking tell you a single one of them. They're just like generic knights, but the 2 bosses I fought, I don't remember. I think one might have been a mole rat or something, and it had some tree that it would burrow and hide behind every now and again. I think it was like, but it wasn't. Oh, so it's a good game. Peglin's a good game, and if you like Peggle, it's 1000% worth checking out. But I think it fell just short of being a great game. What isn't so great is KIBORG. KIBORG is this, again, a rogue light type. Yeah, because you are getting these currencies that allow you to increase your max health and stuff like that. But it's a narrative-based roguelite where you are going through this kind of, it seems like a game show where you're being sent to these various different arenas. You get into an arena, you fight a handful of enemies that come in and attack you. Some range, some close up, some big guys. You'll eventually get to a boss. And you're just following this loop, and dying, failing is part of the process. It's part of the story. And it seems like it should be good. It looks good. I really like the look of it. And I like the general vibe of the story and what's going on. It feels very Running Man-ish to compare to a game. It feels kind of like Smash TV, which is very Running Man-ish. But it feels very much so in that kind of space in terms of what's going on. Or a more modern comparison, Clone Drone in the Danger Zone. Man, that game is great. But where KIBORG KIBORG falls short is in the gameplay. And it's not that it feels bad, it's just barely button mashy, and you get melee weapons, you get ranged weapons, but none of it feels that great. Feels fine, but it feels overly simplistic, overly button mashy, to the point where I wasn't that engaged with the gameplay. It didn't ask a lot of me. I didn't really have to think about what I was doing. Just attack, 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 dodge out of the way, and that's fine. And there's no stamina meter for attacking, which makes things easier. Maybe things change when you level up, or not level up, but you start off with only the level 1 difficulty unlocked, and then as you progress, you'll unlock higher and harder difficulties. But it just felt overly simple. And one of the things that makes it extra easy, because I say it's fairly easy as long as you're patient, because some enemies, especially like the bosses, they can take a lot of damage, and it's you get plenty of on-screen notifications, visualizations of their attacks so that you can avoid them. And you don't have a stamina meter for attacking. You have a stamina little bar that has a certain number of slots, like maybe 5 or 6 to start, and that is only used up when you dodge out of the way. But when you are attacking, it's not. At least it didn't seem like it was. Maybe if you attack a whole bunch, it slowly depletes it a little bit, but not in any significant fashion. And that makes things a lot easier. But it feels very fine. The one cool wrinkle to gameplay where it gets more interesting is in various augmentations that you get after completing an area. After you complete an area, you complete a fight or a boss fight or whatever, you will either get some currency or you'll get a little container that will offer you 3 options of various types, whether it be 3 different augmentations, 3 different types of melee weapons, 3 different types of ranged weapons, so on and so forth. And some of the augmentations can give you some extra cool things, like a slide instead of a dodge roll that lets you move great distances, which is very good when dealing with your bigger AoE type of enemies who can hit you in a large range, so that getting out of the way is more difficult with your less distanced dodge roll, your default dodge roll. But again, it's just kind of okay. What also hurts the game, though, a lot, because I said I was interested, or I liked the general vibe of the game and its concept, the Running Man, Smash TV type of thing. The voice acting is pretty atrocious and grating and annoying, and there's a lot of it, and I don't like listening to any of it. It's very bad. And that makes it so that playing the game isn't enjoyable, because at least early on, it won't shut up. While you're fighting and doing everything, it just is constantly talking about this, that, and I'm like, please shut up, dude. You're so annoying. So that was a bit of a frustrating letdown. That is again KIBORG. What was the opposite of a frustrating letdown is MotoGP 25. I don't have a lot of experience with the MotoGP series, because every time I've tried to get into them, they've always just been too difficult for me to get a grasp of. I've never quite tried that hard to understand and learn how to play these simulation MotoGP games. And so I just haven't had much time with any of them. What got me excited about this year's version of MotoGP 25 is the addition of an arcade control scheme and gameplay style and all that, which having played it now for a little bit, I can't really speak to the game in terms of its career mode or other various things, because I just dabbled in all those things, but I mostly wanted to get a handle for the racing and see what the arcade felt like and arcade racing style felt like, and it's very good and very accessible and great for people who may be interested in MotoGP, in these super bikes, but has always felt like these types of games have been too much for them, something I couldn't get into, like F1 racing games and so on, where you look at it and you think, I want to get into this, but it just seems so overwhelming, so difficult that I'll just never be able to do it. Now, MotoGP 25 has an arcade racing style that it introduces to you right away, because it's the big addition. I would say it's probably the big addition of the game, and it feels great. If I would compare it to anything, I would compare it to Forza Motorsport, which is the sim version of the Forza games. Of course, there's Horizon and Motorsport, and Motorsport is the simmy version. It's the simmy one, but it's still very casual friendly, very accessible. You can probably fine tune it and adjust the accessibility options, the various, what are they called, assists and whatnot in Forza Motorsport to make it feel much more simmy and realistic. But by default, it's very casual, controller friendly, and that's exactly how MotoGP 25 feels with its arcade controls. You've got the traditional braking line and all that, and I was able to jump in right away, following the line, learning how to turn and all that, not worrying about falling off my bike, leaning too much, or doing anything like that. And it felt really, really good. And it has me excited to play more of it and to dive deeper into a MotoGP game for the first time. So I'm excited about it. I just think it's worth mentioning, because I think, again, this is a series that has felt overwhelming and outside of the realm of possibility for quite a few people, or people like me who, again, are just not sim racer types. And any game that is just that, it has a barrier that is impossible to get over. And that's not the case here anymore, which is really nice. And I also love something I was complaining about as I'm playing through Wreckfest. I love how granular you can get with the difficulty in the game. So it has very easy to hard or something along those lines, but it works off a percentage scale, and you could adjust it by individual percentages. So it goes all the way down to 20%, but then all the way up to 100%. I don't think it goes past 100%, but you can get as granular as you want. So you can go 21, 22, 23, so on and so forth. So you can really find a sweet spot for what works for you the best. So maybe you'll find out that 56% difficulty is ideal for you. But it also has an adaptive difficulty, which, of course, I haven't played enough to see how that works and if it really does find the ideal space for you and makes it so that you always feel like you are competitive but not blowing away the competition, not getting blown away by the competition, and so on. But what I've played of MotoGP 25, I'm very high on. I'm very positive on what I've played, and I want to play more because I feel like I can finally play one of these games, and that's cool. As again, MotoGP 25. The last game I played a bit of is Steel Seed, and this is a stealth action Souls-like something or other platformer that has kind of some there's some Recore DNA in this, and you're playing this young woman whose father turned her into a machine. I don't know what the story is. It's not a super compelling story so far. But the thing that I take away from it, because I've played it for a few hours, dabbled with the stealth gameplay and the action gameplay and the platforming, gotten a decent amount of narrative, and it just feels like, because it's from a small team, it feels like a game that's trying to do too much. It's biting off more than it can chew. It has a lot of that kind of Eurojank DNA in it, where you look at those games and you think to yourself, this is incredibly ambitious, and to a point, I'm kind of impressed by what you're able to do, but you bit off more than you can chew, and because of that, everything in the game feels shallow and underbaked and rough, because instead of focusing on a few things and refining those and making them incredibly tight and satisfying and great, you try to do so much, and it shows. There's so many cracks everywhere, and that is the case here. It is very ambitious. There are some attempts at impressive set pieces, and they kind of are impressive, but then the direction of those scenes, the way the camera works and everything, you don't really get the greatest feel of what is going on, even though you get the sense of scale. There's this large ass thing early on that is busting around, but it just is very, very rough around the edges. Visually, there are little glitches here and there. The environment will just kind of like flicker every now and again. There's an overall kind of sharpness slash muddiness slash fuzziness to things, especially when a lot of stuff is going on screen. There's the combat doesn't feel that. It's just a game that has all these elements, and none of them feel that fleshed out, and it's frustrating, because again, you look at it and you say, this is ambitious. You're trying to do a lot, and it's impressive that you're able to generally pull off a fair amount of this, that the game runs and these systems are there and they function and so on and so forth, but none of them are that enjoyable. The platforming especially is very weak and not enjoyable, very linear, and doesn't do a whole lot of anything. The stealth gameplay can get a little interesting. You have this little flying droid with you that you can use to interact with various objects in the environment, but you can also take control of them and fly around and get to certain things to open up areas for you, or when you're in stealth specific sections, you can use it to navigate a large area and locate enemies and tag them and so on. So that's useful. And maybe if the game really focused on being a stealth game and threw away the more Soulsy action side of things that you can engage with, that could have helped. I don't know if it really needed to try and be the spectacle with set pieces and whatnot. So if it just had a more focused and interesting story that was compelling and engaging, and maybe try to be a great stealth game instead of trying to be a great stealth game, a great Souls game, a great action game, I don't think it's trying to be a great platformer, but if it just wasn't trying to do so much, I think it would have benefited the game great. But this is where we're at. And that is, again, Steel Sea. That is it, though, for this here episode of the Pixelated Sausage Show. Once again, I am Marcus Nez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoy this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. There you can get access to a monthly Q&A, the private Discord channel, along with some fancy Discord roles, and the occasional random drop on the Patreon here or there, depending on your tier. Or you can just support me to support me if that is your fancy. That is, again, patreon.com/PXS. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. That is the letter P, the letter X, sausage.com. that is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoy this here episode, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. But for now, adios, arrivederci. Bye bye.
It's go time.